And he was like, listen, just understand you're probably going to peel out the second you can leave this driveway. Just be careful. I'm like, oh man, like I got a turbo in my car. No, I understand, right? It should be fine. Oh, I was not prepared when I backed that truck out onto the road and just gently tapped that accelerator and spun the wheel. I was like, oh, that's what he meant. I see. It took like a couple of stops and starts before I got the hang of like not spinning tire on every green light.
I figure out how to do it in my fucking Kia sometimes, bro.
No, I do it in the Saab from time to time.
Fuck.
And I'm like, I didn't mean to do that. But you know what I do mean to do? I think we should probably start this podcast if everybody's ready. All right. We got the thumbs up. So you know what that means, Gina? We're starting a podcast in 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to Shedtime. What is Shedtime, you ask? Well, it's code for the consumption of cannabis, but it's much more than that. Shedtime's a state of mind. It's art, it's music, it's cryptocurrency, technology, it's food, it's vaping. It can be whatever you want it to be, as long as you're not letting the bastards get you down, not being a dick, and making it fun. When you're in the shed, it's whatever your mind allows you to create. So now let's get to the Shedtime podcast.
Is it weird that I look to the left to look at Gina every time I reference her? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
She's real.
Well, that's
You
what
know?
she is,
Clearly
isn't she?
not.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, is it weird that I like look at her every time?
I always look to my left when I'm talking to Gina.
You know, like, sorry. Maybe it's too much information for the listeners, but hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Shedtime podcast. It's another beautiful day. I hope it's wonderful where you are. And if it's not, well, forget about it. We're here now. So,
Capiche?
yeah.
See?
Now we're going back.
Yeah, she.
Muggsy, see, he's over here with the Shedtime podcast, see, and
Sorry?
he's gonna be squealing if he's not careful. So you better go watch him. Yes, that's right. We got Muggsy
you're
as
a
our
wise
guest.
guy, huh?
But in all
Wise guy,
reality,
yeah.
we got a longtime friend of the podcast here today, ladies and gentlemen, and it's been 2 years. 2.5 now since we last had you on the show. So, ladies and gentlemen,
No.
our friend Breezetones is back. Welcome back, my friend.
2.5 years? No.
I know, that's so awesome. I'm so glad I haven't spoken to you in that long. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming back into my life. I appreciate
You've
you.
aged. You've aged really
I
well.
have.
Time has
We all
been
have,
kind.
sadly. Oh, such a
Oh,
reminder.
yes. So,
Thanks for asking me back.
last time we had you on, we were very coffee centric in that conversation.
That's right.
Yeah, and we learned quite a lot about coffee, and I don't know if any of the listeners stepped their coffee game up, but I hope they did. I hope they took something good away from it, and at least, maybe bought some better coffee. I know in one of our recent conversations that we had, we were talking about Robusto versus Arabica beans, and I started paying attention to all these people that were blending both of those beans and going, this is why I don't like your coffee.
Yeah.
Oh.
It tastes Lego wheels. Tastes like a Lego wheel.
Like, oh, this is not coffee at all. This is pure anger and regret.
No, it's so even in that short amount of time, like that, there's a lot of certification for that kind of coffee. That kind of, well, it's very different and different variety, obviously, and all that sort of thing. But that coffee can be very good too, and used in appropriate ways. But I think most people just know it as like, I'm going to have my, a size 11 shoe punched into my jaw, 3 times in the morning by that kind of profile, and that's what they expect coffee. So but there are really good ones like that. Good robusta. Yeah,
Robusto.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to say it all fancy. Robusto.
yeah.
Love it. And Yergo Shefe. Oh yeah. If you guys don't know if you guys don't know about Yergo Shefe coffee, Google it.
I know about shit I buy at the grocery store. That's like my extent. Like I've bought in some like fancier beans from grocery store because like you go to some grocery stores and have like a lot of different types of fresh ground coffee. And I would just like honestly, I would just go buy and like whichever ones looked like it would smell the best, I would just grab that. And I
that's a
grind
good
that
thing.
shit.
If it smells good, then it's probably going to taste good. So that can be a good first indicator. That's it. Easy.
Yeah,
Done.
like for me, coffee is like it's like beer, right? There's a time and place for both, and like I'm not really picky. Like I know what bad beer, I know what bad coffee tastes like to me, and I know what a completely adequate beer and coffee tastes like to me. And like they're kind of in the same boat, except I drink coffee every day and I drink beer once every 6 months. But like that's still that same thing. If I'm like out for dinner with some friends and we're getting some wings, I'm not gonna be like, oh, what's your best whatever the fuck, what are those ones called? What's the ones that IPA, yeah. Like, I'll take your finest IPA. I'll be like, yeah, no, like what's
Lager. Hit me with
like
the
the regular
dude.
kind of beer you got? Because
Give
I'll
me a
probably have one of
straight,
those.
whatever your light beer is. Give me that.
He's like,
Yeah,
what do
dude,
all,
'cause,
what
like,
do all the
I don't like going
dudes
to-
drink?
Well, I don't like going to Starbucks, right? Because like their shit's always so fancy and like there's so much going on, and I don't even find that their regular coffee tastes that good.
It's
So
whatever.
like I'd rather not go there. I'd spend less money, go somewhere else. You know what I mean? But then there's some people be like, well, Starbucks are bust.
I mean, I
Right?
guess it all depends about like the place you
IPA
go,
folks.
right? Like the people have to care. Like I'm sure you can go to a Timmy's
Yeah, but I
where
think that, like,
nobody
you can
there gives
only-
a shit and the
Yeah,
coffee's
but
just
you're
trash.
but you're still getting like Tim Hortons at least. And I'm not even saying Tim Hortons is the greatest. It's a completely super available, like fairly priced, quick option, right?
Listen,
And,
I'm saying Timmy's is better than Dunkin', and I'm in the land of Dunkin', so
yeah, I would.
you know,
Well, I would agree. In my perspective, from my goings to of fucking Dunkin' Donuts, Tim Hortons definitely trumps it. Their food's a lot better, and their coffee to me is better.
I wonder though, Adam, have you ever experienced the swill that is Dunkin' Donuts coffee?
All the time, or maybe not specifically that one, but I always taste the coffee that is selling the most. It's like a recalibrate. I want to see what they're doing, and it's things have come a long way. Even at this stage, but it's still like it's hard to compare things that I like versus things that are selling because two completely different. It's like comparing oranges and Porsches. That it's just not the same situation, and the way those businesses have to run is not even the same ballpark as the really good stuff. If you want to get fancy.
Well, you're right.
Adam, I got a question for you, Adam. Like, has something I honestly I don't think I've ever asked you crazy to think like after like 4 years of being friends. Is like something the equivalent of Dunkin' Donuts or Tim Hortons in Australia? Is there like a chain of restaurants that is like that coffee, donuts, like sandwiches, whatever, but it's chain in Australia? Like what's your Tim Hortons? What's your Dunkin' Donuts?
We have we might not necessarily have the same companies that they probably in the umbrella situation are owned by the same people, but the reality is that there are national chains very popular that are in that demographic, if you want to call it that. The people who go to those kind of like mall cafes and all that sort of stuff, or buy coffee that's that kind of coffee, the ones from overseas may not necessarily succeed, but in Australia we've got things called like the coffee club. I don't need to name names, but there's a good handful, dozen of them. So yes, there is.
I have a question.
So the answer is yes.
Is there a drive-through though? Like, because like Dunkin' Donuts have drive-throughs.
Starbucks,
like almost all of them.
now.
Yeah,
like Tim Hortons do.
I think the drive-through thing is not something
that a North American thing.
Yeah, because done for convenience and done for size and all that sort of stuff. Like it's just also not the market here in Australia. So it's quite common to stop and get fuel and coffee, or to stop at McDonald's and get coffee, or to do those kind of things, or actually stop at the cafe for 10 minutes and drink the coffee at the cafe and then leave. That's really, really common. So
Do fast food restaurants have drive-throughs? Like, does McDonald's have drive-through?
yeah. Oh,
okay.
That's what I mean. Like, so the best comparison is McDonald's, because that's probably the number one, and it's the same anywhere in the world. So the answer is yes, but there are others that are more go-to places. You park your car, you go to it, and then you come back, or you go park your car and you get the coffee to take and you go. That's probably more common, because I guess that's just how the Australian market has evolved.
Just the vibe, yeah.
Yeah. And because also thinking back, I don't want to go down this too far. Go back to the 40s, 50s, 60s, when it was all happening in, from, I guess, Italians and Greeks and the Europeans coming to Australia, and they're bringing all these machines, and, the first, Greek espresso, store in Melbourne. In whenever I was seeing an old newspaper clipping, it was like, I don't know, 53 or some shit like that, 1953. And it was a picture of, husband and wife team just come to the country. You got this like shiny fucking like gorgeous piece of art that creates, beautiful espresso, and they're introducing their coffee to, their neighborhood in fucking, wherever it was. Might have even been Sydney, like it was
like
just interesting to see. Yeah. So that's as opposed to, what would you have had in the 50s? When was McDonald's? When was, the stuff happening in California, like when drive-throughs started and like all of that sort of stuff. So just different, same, but just different path. We went the European way, I guess, effectively. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've never seen like what your cities look like, because like I've never been to Australia, so like maybe like the way that everything like your urban planning and all that stuff is like more European than it is over here.
The big mixture. Yeah,
because like we have a lot of space, but you guys do too. But maybe just like that influence might have actually changed the infrastructure a little bit more than it did over here for us as lowly North Americans.
Lots of cities that had good intentions, perhaps in the the bigger picture, because how hard would that be to be a civil engineer to plan like what's the square or what do you call that?
Well, you'd have to be a
1,000 kilometers,
right?
Sorry?
You'd have to be a visionary. You'd have to be able to like foresee the future. You'd be like, oh, at some point there's going to be so many people coming here, and I'm going to need to like build all these different areas and like plan for future development in all these areas like 50 fucking years, 60 years, 70 years ahead of time. Nah. Like a lot of these cities that like even we live in, like Sean City is old as fuck, but even near James, I'm sure like it's 150 years since like there's probably cities or like legit places established in California, like Toronto, where like I grew up close to, used to be a different city before. It was called York, but it goes back to like, I don't know, like the 1700s. So like how could they have thought then? It's like, oh well, we put all these buildings up and we planned out all these like carriage roads. Let's just like think about the future. But like where you live at, I'm like, how colonized is it? You know what I mean? Like when did like more people start coming to Australia? I don't even know that about Australia.
That's a huge thing, because there's been lots of like growth and all that sort of stuff, but and I don't know enough about the place that I'm living at now because I wasn't born here. But this place apparently is the first settlement in Australia that wasn't colonized by the penal colony system or whatever. They didn't send the convicts here, and people that came to South Australia, I think, were the ones that chose to be here, for the
opportunity.
And the landscape, because it is the food bowl, and there's a bit of everything going on down here. But that, anyway, so I didn't know that about that, but it's a mixture of like the CBD is a very grid oriented, like 4 terraces, north, south, east, west. It's all very gridded. And then once you get to like where the expansion kind of stopped, and then it hits the burbs, and like even where I am here, it's kind of, there are places that have, I believe there was a lot of German influence and, like European style. And then there's, kind of very, classic Australian, I guess, whichever is the way you want to put that, because even the different parts of Australia have unique architecture to the settlers in the time. So Queensland has what's called a Queenslander house, and it's a very specific, very patio, heat, floods, proof house. And then, but those houses don't work down here because it's a completely different environment. So, here they have, the European style high eaves there's a whole bunch of shit. There's so many churches in this city, because it's an old city. But anyway, I could talk hours about stuff that I don't know.
Okay, well, just like one more thing to like finish this completely me taking shit off the rails. My bad. But this is like
there are no rails on this show,
This is like
sir.
Australia Talk 101 with the one and only Breezetones. When was how old is Australia? Like, when did it officially become like a country and like you're not necessarily Independence Day, but like
I at least have some of those answers pulled up for you, Adam.
Thank you, because you make me sound like I don't know enough about my own country.
Became a country? Come on!
How dare you ask me about my own country that I don't know enough information? Because
I don't think it's as old as Canada. Canada was 1867, so I feel like Australia might have been like 1900. That's what my guess is.
Australia's history is pretty close to what you're talking about there, sir. It says that in the 1850s, gold was discovered, and the gold rush that followed brought people to Australia from all over the world. In 1901, Australia became a nation, forming the Commonwealth of Australia.
There you go, 1901. Okay.
1 year later, Australia became one of the first countries in the world to give women the right to vote.
Oh, wow. I think it was, Australia's progressive as hell. Let's go.
Wasn't it 1883, 1886? I was pretty sure when the Europeans came to Australia. There's probably earlier. There's lots of argument about that.
My curiosity was more so like, when did Australia become Australia, right? Like, so like America was like what, 1776? Canada,
that was Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, and like that was a confederation, right, for Canada in 1867. So I was curious, and I thought that Australia was like later, but 1901 sounds right.
Yeah, like you were pretty damn close there, sir. When you were like 1900s, I was like, 1901. You're pretty damn close there, sir. And that actually came from the dfat.gov.au website. It's a PDF.
Seems legit.
So yeah, I feel like that, their understanding of their history should be pretty solid.
It should be.
Especially in a document called Australia in Brief.
That document that you read, Sean, that document that you read would have cost the Australian taxpayers probably about $18 million over the course of
6
years or some shit. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. You want to talk about taxpayer boondoggles? Massachusetts and Boston has the big dig.
Yeah.
We went like several $1 billion over budget and took like an extra 10 years, I think it was, to dig a fucking tunnel.
Nice.
Yeah, but and that's like pure like just government ineptitude.
It was more than that. There was a lot of shit that went wrong. But yeah,
dude, there's a fucking bridge like not that far away from me. It's like a 35-minute drive. I used to deliver like a lot of packages that way, and there was a bridge that connected on like one kind of country road, but it was like a country highway, like be like a 55 mile an hour zone. And there was a bridge that would take one highway to another highway. They would meet. But no, this bridge had not been redone. Then it got kind of done, like really half-assed, and then they had to tear it down, and it's still out. It's been out for like 4 years. And if you live on like one side of it, to get to the town, it takes like 3 times as long, probably, because you have to backtrack a bunch, take all these weird ass fucking side roads on this crazy detour. And I'm like, I talked to a homeowner and I was like, what is going on with that bridge? There's like, man, fucking government, man. There's like, they tell me the story. It's like, they took all these bids, took the lowest bid, the bid got it. It's like it started to crumble before it was even completed. Now they're like in battles. I'm like, holy Christ, like this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Governments,
governments are a shit show. Like this big dig issue from Boston, the work actually began on it in 1982.
Oh my God.
The overall construction ran from 1991 to 2007.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that
took
was
them 9 years just to start.
Yeah. And then
Did anyone die? Did anyone die in that time?
I
had
am
trails.
yes, because we had a big dig ceiling collapse, and then several other big construction problems throughout the whole thing. They basically completely reconstructed the way that all of the major highways entered into the city of Boston. They had to dig the O'Neill Tunnel and a few other like whole other things. And during the tunnel digging process, you're literally going completely under the Charles River. So that was a whole other engineering, battle they went through. And Elon Musk wasn't here to save the day with the Boring Company yet, because this was 1991 and he was still working on PayPal.
I've got a derailment. I've got a derailment. Can we have
Bring
a
it.
derailment for a second?
Bring it.
Okay, so they're doing the exact same thing in the city of Brisbane, which is my home state and the capital of my home state. And they're in, I know everyone loves music here. The most iconic live music venue in Brisbane was a place called Festival Hall. I don't know what the capacity was, but it was somewhere in a couple thousand. Like it might have actually been a few thousand, but I'm pretty sure that it was just a perfectly acoustic venue where the big bands would play, like those smaller arena shows,
4,000 head capacity.
There you go. So it was the ultimate sound venue and the place to see your favorite band. And they knocked it down, or the festival hall stopped, operation quite a while ago. And anyway, long story short is they're doing the same tunnel thing in Brisbane, and they were building this large section right under the site of Festival Hall, and the building manager, whoever was the managing the tunnel, said the acoustics in here are really good because they've got one of those ginormous fucking tunnel things, and so they organised two guitarists from a band called Powderfinger, they're from Brisbane, and they played Festival Hall, probably many, many, many times. And that band, anyway, long story about that band, but they set up two rigs, like two, concert stage rigs, and both of them jammed in this tunnel, and they recorded it on video, and I watched, some of the clips because I just saw it on social media yesterday, and it just sounds insane. It sounds insane. So they were blessing the tunnel where the site of Festival Hall was before they continue the construction of this ginormous tunnel.
That warms my spirit. Yeah,
right.
That warms my spirit a little bit. Paying homage.
In fact, I'll find the link for you. You might not know the music, but that doesn't matter. It's just it's cool to watch.
Well, that's the you pull up the link. We can screen share it right here, and our patrons will be able to watch it with us.
Hold, please.
So,
yeah. Oh, we video recording too.
Oh, yeah.
We're full out. We're like everything.
Yes, sir. That is.
Only ones that see the video are the patrons, though.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. That's one of the many perks of our patrons.
Dude, I've been like staring at Adam's screen every time I'm like speaking towards him, and I'm staring at the little like Yoda, like the glow in the dark Yoda. And he replies to me, I'm thinking that like I'm just like Yoda's talking back.
Should change my.
And I'm expecting you to like do like I don't know, something some Yodaism.
Look at this nugget.
Yeah, we can get into that. I've just spent 2 days away, and I'd love to talk about that actually. It'd be at some point. We don't have to do that now. But
Yoda is your segue into your time away. Now I'm intrigued.
Indeed. Yeah.
Because Yoda is the reason why I'm just going to address the odd elephant in the room. That why I've got the duck and my little buddy hanging out, and James has a taco and a Power Ranger hanging out.
I don't know what you're talking about.
These are normal things for us.
Has a taco hanging out.
There's nothing on my screen, bro.
It's a Facebook link.
Oh shoot! I cannot.
Hang on a second. Yeah, hang on a second.
I can't view it, man. Me no have no Facebook.
You don't have Facebook for real?
For real.
Damn.
I hadn't touched it in so long. Like it's now long deactivated. Like, yeah, I have no need for it. No need for it.
Oh, here you go. Is there a video? Are you?
This video isn't available anymore. It says.
Hang on, I can stream it because I can watch it.
We're not
Yes.
Australian enough for the Straya Club, apparently.
Yeah.
If you pull out, do I have permission to
You should.
screen share? Sorry, just working it out.
We can work it out.
Logistics,
We
baby.
can work it out.
Live logistics. This is a new age. We're living that life.
You got it?
Did you click share with audio?
Sorry.
Because we can't hear it. Did you make sure you clicked share with audio?
How do I do that?
Just end it and then go back to share screen again. And at the bottom, there's a little box you click, I think.
Share
Oh.
screen. Oh, share sound. Sorry. Yes. Now, can you see it?
Yep.
I think I know that song. That's crazy.
That's
That's
nuts.
wild.
Shut up.
That is some incredible acoustics. The reverb in that is intense.
Dude,
Yeah.
I love seeing like cool shit.
Could you
like that,
imagine
though.
what a choir would sound like singing inside of there?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Oh. Dude, even just like your average street performer, right? Or like not
Yeah,
average,
or
you know what I
an
mean? I just mean
organ,
a street
dude.
performer.
Could you imagine how crazy an organ would resonate inside of there, bro? Whoa.
Oh, dude,
That's
I bet you could hit a brown note. I bet you. Could
Oh,
hit a
for
brown
sure,
note.
dude.
I saw a few buskers in London doing that, where you know they would have just the one level under caverns to hold your rubbish and all that sort of stuff, and quite often a lot of those didn't hold rubbish, but they were like these perfect little stone, you know, bubbles that were just a little cavern, and so that they would play guitar or play percussion instruments or whatever just around London, and it would just you'd hear it for kilometers because it was just outstanding, natural reverb and natural.
Dude,
natural,
that's like one of those things, right? Like I never even thought
Yeah.
about it, but right when you just said that, it made me think. Like I wonder how many buskers know what places that they personally think that they sound the best, and they
It's like, think about
hustle
the
to
ones
get
that-
those spots.
Yeah, it's
The
like think about the ones that
monuments.
sing in the subways
Yep.
and stuff because of how
Yep.
it resonates inside of there because of the fucking tile on
Yeah.
the fucking walls and all the concrete and everything.
That's true. It would always be a trip. Like you get to like a subway station and you could hear somebody like singing or playing guitar, and it'd be like pretty far away. And you just like as you're walking through like the tunnel
fading
down the
in.
steps, it's like getting louder and louder, or the opposite as you're
Yeah.
leaving.
See,
I
I
definitely have
always,
seen some pretty awesome people doing that, like really talented people.
I always dig the dude who's trash drumming. Like those dudes blow my mind because they're like, yeah, I got some, plastic buckets and some pots and pans.
Some of them have
and-
rocks in it. To have different
Yeah,
sound.
like the way that these guys can construct all of these things around them in such a manner that they can literally play full on, drum rhythms with all of these sounds that you could interpret from varying percussion instruments with modern day trash items that people would have otherwise just discarded. It blows my mind. And with the whole reverb thing, I always find those guys like in those big open squares surrounded by large city buildings, so that again you get that outdoor reverb up the buildings. And
Yeah.
Back to the drum
Bananas.
set thing, Sean. It was like they're just getting back to the roots of where the drum kit began, bro.
so
You know what I
true.
mean?
So
just
true.
creating it for sure.
But you
There was
need
On the
a
note
horse
of like
head.
those
The
paint
horse
pails
head.
and shit though. Like I remember the minute, so if you went down to like the Blue Jays, right? So to the Sky Dome, you take Union Station, that's how you get there by like the subway, and then you'd like get out and you'd walk up this like big thing, go across like this big ass bridge, which would be going over a bunch of train tracks, because like that's where all the ships would like load up the trains and shit like that. So they had all these train tracks like down right downtown. And you'd walk in and you'd get out the other side into like open air, and it'd be like another, like we'll say half of a mile of a walk to the like the entrances. And dude, there'd be a dude like maybe like a few hundred feet from the entrance, and he would be playing just one single fucking empty 5-gallon pail. But this dude, like the minute you came out, it would sound like the craziest shit, because you'd hear it and it would echo everything around, because like it's got like all concrete everywhere. It's right, the CN Tower's right there. There's like a whole bunch of like shipping fucking, or not shipping, but like old industry buildings, because it was like right by all the railroad tracks and all that shit. And it was always fucking, this dude was fucking pumping it. He would be making fucking mad cash. He'd be getting people so hyped. Like you just hear people walking, they'd be like, go Jays, go. Cause he'd be like doing like all sorts of stuff, and then prompted people to do like the go Jays, go. Just kicking it every home game. I always thought that like that'd be fucking pretty fun.
There's
Shout
a
out to
dude,
those guys.
There's usually a dude outside of any like sports venue or music venue or anything that, you know, is trying to get his hustle on. And I respect it.
Yeah, there's a big festival, or I guess you call it a festival. It's called the Fringe Festival down here in South Australia. On right now, it goes on for like a month, and it's all of entertainment, music, comedians, shows, oddities, food. Like just crazy. The city goes crazy for. I think it's.
And they'll all
a
be
full
at like
month.
different venues and stuff.
Yeah, all over the city. Yeah, we went and saw one a couple of weekends ago, which was 500 drones in a park at nighttime, synchronized light show and music for
What?
these drones, and yeah, it was
Sick.
insane. And when someone says those words in a sentence to you, you instantly go, "What does that look like?" Like that. I was thinking, what exactly? That's a big thing. 500 synchronized drones. Like, how's that going to work? But it was completely not what I was expecting, and it was really wild, actually. Yeah. So we went to a park, part of the Fringe Festival. That's like and also you think about that, they need to have secure airspace. So there's the aviation laws are involved and all that sort of blah blah. But anyway, so you get there. We waited until sundown. Lights. It went dark. There's fucking lasers and all sorts of shit, and light and big pumping stage speakers, and then out of nowhere, like think Space Invaders, the original Space Invaders game where there's the lines, so they just came out of the ground in lines, and it was maybe about 150 or 200 of them at a time. And they just came up one line, and then it stacked and went the next line, and then the next line, and then so 4 lines all went up together, and then they basically just molded into faces and Australian iconic animals like an echidna, and then a Dreamtime snake, and then it was insane. So that went for about 10 or 15 minutes. Then those ones landed. They went down Space Invader style, and then out of maybe about 100 feet away, the next grid came up, and that was like 5 lines of, and they went into did their own, and that was more like a cosmic kind of shapes and sizes. And I want to say that you think about wind, and like when you're flying something, or just the gradual like this, you can stabilize yourself, but you think about how things are always just slightly moving.
I just looked this up.
I can't believe. Yeah.
Can you screen
how
share?
stable
a little
they
video,
were.
Screen share a little bit. I know what you're talking about, but for anybody,
I just I pulled up a video on YouTube. This is from Guinness World Records. So what I just pulled up is the biggest drone display ever, according to Guinness World Records. It's exactly what Adam just described experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
This actually in it says it's the most unmanned aerial vehicles airborne simultaneously, consisting of 3,051 UAVs, achieved by Shenzhen Domoda Intelligent Control Technology Company from China. So it sounds like this is taking some incredible programming into multiple drones to pull this off. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and hit the screen share with sound.
Dude, I can't wait till I hear the sound. Like, I think that's the part that's going to be really trippy for me.
So let's share.
Bunch of drones at the same time probably sound crazy. They sound crazy singularly.
So here we go.
Yeah. Look how they take off. Jesus.
How's there that many?
That's a lot of batteries. High five.
Whoa.
Yo, that's crazy. For anybody that can't see, like, there's so many drones. They're doing like light shows. Like, we're
Look at
talking
that.
about
They just created a globe with like
thousands.
fucking satellites fucking circling around it and shit.
And they're
Yep.
scaled so that you have 3-dimension.
Big old satellite.
Wow. The
Oh,
space
it's the space
station.
station.
Dude,
Holy shit.
Oh my god.
how many
dude.
fucking drones is that though?
3,051.
Wow.
3,051. Wow. Mars, and it's spelled Mars. Holy smokes. The original record was 2,066 drones.
Oh, they crushed that.
Wow.
For anybody, that like doesn't have the ability to see, it's the biggest drone display ever. That's the video we're watching from the Guinness World Records. It's crazy.
Wow.
Can I say something about when you're watching them in real life is that after you get over the like, wow, look at what I'm seeing in real life, you start to focus on just one. I noticed like that my eye was going to one because I wanted to see the path of where, one would just continually go to and like how they were integrating, because that was the thing. When you focused on one, you noticed it just ever slightly moving, and then the light would go off, and then you would keep your eye on it and watch its path as it moved to another position, so into the next formation, and then how they were grouping, because there were things that would stay together and there were like sections of an image, or like the dots, let's just call it dots of the image that would intersect, and so it would draw your eye to make you think that the face was like winking or doing something. So it was almost like when Sean said, or someone said 3D, like interesting to see that aerial shot at height, because we were looking at it 2D, but then they would make it look 3D because you were looking through something, your perspective was changing. But then in the same vein, the way the program, or however they were synchronizing the movements, were also, so it's almost like, I don't know, do you call that 4D?
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of
yeah.
right, because like 4D, a representation of that is the Klein bottle, right? Where it is both inside out and outside in all at the same time. And
it was really cool to watch. Yeah,
to move, to have anti-collision ability to move them amongst each other like that and intertwine them is incredible.
Like, how
don't
many
know
times do
how
you think
deep
they had
they were.
to fucking write that program until they didn't have any collisions?
The math, these people had to go through to like figure out some of this, like. And
because the moment they took off, like that was the thing. The moment they took off, everything was, it would go through its changes, and then it would just like stop, So there was never any point. And the other thing, the first one that came up was like a little red light drone, and a red light. That was when we knew the show started, and it went off over here. So imagine my window is exactly the airspace, because that was what it was like. It was like a box of airspace. And then one drone just went up here and stayed there the entire show, and then basically just hovered around the top like a perimeter. And I don't know if that was like, the master drone or whatever you want to call that, sorry,
Maybe
that's
that's like the
a terrible term
frame
to
of
use.
reference for
The head
everyone.
drone, yeah. And then everything started from that. And then at the end of the show, that was the last one to go down too, so it was just
That was the only one that was controlled by a human being.
likely.
The rest are just AI.
That one was probably being actually flown to film the performance, and everything else is probably programmed by some master AI, basically, that's ensuring that everything is. Because that's the crazy thing, and we fall into this AI subject quite a bit on this show these days. But like AI has really developed to some incredible levels that
It scares me.
those
Dude,
kind of things are entirely
ChatGPT
possible.
is like probably the craziest shit I've ever seen. The other day, I was like talking to somebody, and they just typed in like what they wanted, and they basically wanted like a website built for an NFT project, and they used ChatGPT, and they just like typed it in, and like within 10 minutes, like the dude was just dying because he's like, it literally wrote out everything down to the code. Like it completed the entire like back end of a fucking website.
Yep.
Like just using AI. Like it's fucking crazy, dude. Because like I thought it was cool just doing like the AI generation of like images, right? And I had a lot of fun with that, and it is fun. You just type in whatever you want, and like it kind of creates this thing for you. But like the fact that it can like write programs or essays, like I was hearing not that long ago that like kids were getting thrown out of school because they got caught using ChatGPT for papers, but like others are just like excelling because they're not getting caught, and they're just like writing like this genius level shit just from AI. Like, fuck, we're getting like too close for comfort. Like I'm starting to feel that way.
I mean, even in my job today,
Makes me nervous, bro.
I use a lot of different AI programs. I use AI background removers and photo touchers to, fix up images that vendors send me. I use an AI rewriter to take existing descriptions of products and rewrite them so that it's an original description and not the same one that you find all over the internet. So yeah, we use Chat GPT. My my general manager uses Chat GPT to write emails for him.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
Jesus.
To make sure that like he sounds as professional as possible. Yeah, the AI tech that is available to us at our fingertips, if you know where to look, is insane. I use an AI software that converts any file into anything I need it to be converted to. Turn PDFs into JPEGs, turn web pages into images, turn them into PDFs, like whatever you want to do. It's
This is the
insane.
thing too, bro. This is just the version that's out right now. They've got Chat GPT-4 that's coming out, and it's supposed to be like even more like intense as far as like its capabilities as what we're working with now.
Well,
listening to an episode of Rogan's podcast with Lex Friedman, he was talking about it, and dude, it's insane because it's at a certain point, dude. Like, just think about all the AI shit and how like they're already incorporating it into like fucking movies and shit like that. We're gonna get to the point where they're not even gonna need actors or anything like that because they could just fucking have an AI recreate their fucking likeness and voice and whatever, and they could just do whatever they fucking want with it.
It's already here because like we have like super quality deep fake stuff where I can take any existing clip and put anybody in it.
No, I'm just saying like that's just going to be the standard.
So that's
certain point where like
that's what I'm saying. Like we're there, we can do it. Like we're probably
we're not there. We're getting there.
We're like
it's not happening
months away.
Not everything's happening like that at the moment, but
people are doing it on YouTube every day.
And how are you going to know what's real and what's not anymore?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, though. People are doing it on YouTube every day. There are YouTube channels right now that you've never seen a live human being on.
I watched there's a couple of camera and video content creators that I watched, and he did that. The AI wrote his entire review, and he said at the end, my entire script was written by AI, and this is what's going on, and yada yada, and he was talking about that. Yeah.
I have websites I can use right now that will render me a legitimate human figure to read any script I want with any voices I pick and all that stuff. And there are
Did you
people
see that one?
No,
Sorry,
I've seen something else that is probably, they're referencing a lot of the same source material. But yeah, like the estimate is now that roughly 40 to 50% of the YouTube channels a lot of people are watching are almost completely AI driven now. That the content's being made by AI, that everything you're watching on screen is all AI. And even down to the scheduling of what videos are being made, when they're coming out, basing it on the algorithms, and it's mind-boggling. It makes me realize there's some people who are just a lot smarter than I am.
Yeah, or they know how to use programs better.
That's what I'm saying. Well, then they're a lot smarter than I am on some level.
Well, no, but because dude, I've even noticed that the more prompts and the more specific you get with these Mid-Journey is a real popular one. You can create some pretty crazy AI art. But it all is dependent on the prompts, right? If you don't get the prompts good, it's going to be hard to get something specific that maybe you're imagining. It's actually something that I always keep on hearing in the NFT scene and digital art scene is AI art and all that stuff. And I actually think that it is art, but a lot of people think that AI art is not art. But ultimately, you still have to create the vision by the prompt words, right? So that's why I kind of always argue against that. But yeah, dude, it's fun to play with Mid-Journey. Anybody that has the opportunity, you should definitely do it because you can create some pretty cool looking shit. From my experience, anyways.
Your hand, Adam, made me think of these little guys with their gigantic hands. My wife's uncle likes to play around with a 3D printer, and
those are cool.
He made these little guys, and they're fun as hell. They just all interconnect to each other, but then they disconnect.
Cool.
But now that we've really derailed again to a whole nother level, now we got to know about the Yoda, and of course now his friend, the giant hand.
I just put these up here, but it's been I've had a family.
I demand backstories.
Backstories. No, it's state of mind. It's representing state of mind. Interesting place. I've had a couple of days away, and a refresher. An interesting trip away with my wife's family and that whole thing. But I got to see a part of Australia I hadn't really spent much time in, and I don't know. It was just very nice reset, if you want to call it that.
A mental detox, if you will.
Yeah. Got to see a beautiful part of the coastline, and got some time in it. And there was no. I had the conversation of, we ate out of these expensive places, and none of that.
Dude, just did you experience the fucking scenery and the fucking the culture there, and that's what I like, dude. Just seeing what the vibe's like.
The sun, it was quite a lot of fresh air and sunshine and walks, and kids laughing, and just lots of that.
Just positive vibes. Sounds like
feeding the soul.
Yeah,
it is a good reset, though. I mean, sometimes for me, a reset can even be just a day at home without switching my mind off, all this stupid bullshit. I just work through that, and it's okay. Next day, I'm super tired, and I just kind of do nothing, just very minimal, and it feels like a reset even that way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But getting away is obviously it's much easier to tap into that spot.
Yeah, because it changes your perspective whether you like it or not, and when you bring the old thoughts into the new location, or a new perspective, I guess it's like, okay, well, I don't need that, and I don't need this, and I don't need that, and I can shed this, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It was really nice. So hasn't been done in a very long time, and I mean the circumstances were celebrating something else, that the family experienced. So, but it was just really really cool because it kind of wasn't what I was expecting, and you also don't, you're so through your daily routine of like, this is what I do. I've got to do this work, and then I've got to make this, and I've got family, and yada yada, and then it's like, stop. Oh my goodness, look at that sunshine. And then you get into 48 hours of like, oh, wow. Oh, and breathing and, lots of laughing. And I don't know, it was a really nice time to make me, give me perspective on certain aspects of your existence,
Yeah.
Nah, it's
So, yeah.
beautiful. I love that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mental health is key to overall health. And it's funny because we were talking a lot about health and wellness last week. We had my friend Blake, who's a personal trainer, on, and we touched a little bit on that. Like, you gotta do what makes you feel good, and sometimes it means just getting out of your environment, even for a day or two, and walking through the woods, or doing something that feeds the soul.
Or walking the other side of the street, even for, like, you don't have to go to the extremes of like, oh, we're having a holiday, or those kind of things, or going to some other location.
Yeah, just
like,
changing things up,
Yeah.
Driving a different route to work.
5,000%. I do that to Albert, my son, all the time when we walk, because we walk to school, and we'll go down a different street just so I can show him the area, and he's familiar with the area, and he's like, his brain's like, whoa, we're going somewhere different, and he's like, oh, hang on, cool, like the new stuff to look at, whatever. It's just that's the base emotion, right? And like how to change your perspective. Yeah.
I think that's something that we take for granted, even when like it does happen, right? Because I know, like, even like, anecdotally, I used a machine in the gym last week that I've never used, and it had me face the room in a different direction that I've never faced. And I had this moment as I was kind of taking my rest from my set, and I looked around and I was like, yo, I've never seen this room from this direction ever. This is weird. I don't know. Like, it was just this kind of like momentary recognition of change. And then, of course, I went on with my day and continued what I was doing. But yeah, like, just that brief change of perspective of like, hey, this is neat. That's what that looks like.
I've had that situation where, I sit down and start doing something, and I look up and I'm like, wait. Oh, yeah.
I'm in control here.
Yeah, wait, I'm over here. That's for different reasons.
No, but you get into your head.
Dude, I
get thinking
locked
of scenarios.
I get locked into things so easily sometimes that, like, when I finally like just like snap back, I'm just like, oh shit, yeah, like I'm like, I'm here. You know what I mean? It's that, like, it's weird. I do it at work sometimes. Like, I'll be like, and just like in a group or whatever, and then someone just will come up to me and like say something, and then like I'll just like snap out of it, answer the question, and then I'll turn around and look back and be like, okay, now where was I at? Like,
who am I? What am I doing?
It's like, wait, what was, like, I'm trying to find the groove again, and it, like, try to just like snap back into it. I'm not even stoned at that point.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to be said about hitting the flow state, right? Like, when you hit
I
the
do
groove.
it easily when because most of the time I've got like either like a little podcast or like some music going that I'm listening to, but not like, here we go. I'm hearing it, but not necessarily listening, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, it's going in, and like I pick out like pieces out of it, some shit like the in-between stuff, like the bullshit, like most of the time I just let go. But when they start talking about something like I'm interested in, that's when I listen.
Yeah, that's
know
why
what I
it's
mean?
important. Those whatever that what do you call that, subconscious listening is good stuff to start with. Like don't be
Yeah.
feeding yourself the
So I'm not necessarily listening to all like the fucking bullshit banter, but like
yeah.
when there's something
Feed yourself the
interesting
good
pops
stuff.
in. It's just mainly I have the earphones in just to block out the fucking noise of the shop because it's fucking loud as shit. And
Yeah.
having just like a little something else to listen to helps me get into that fucking that groove. You know what I mean?
There is a lot to be said though. Like I think we're like Breezetones is just kind of getting at with like feeding yourself the good shit, right? Like
Yeah.
you can choose to listen to conspiracy podcasts, for example, and they're entertaining. But oftentimes they talk about things that are sad, dark, or depressing. And you know, it maybe not affects you by bringing you down, but it does stimulate your nervous system a certain way. Versus if you were listening to a podcast that is a comedy podcast, that's going to stimulate your nervous system in a different way. And that's also going to be completely different than if you're listening to, say, a motivational speaker in their podcast and how that's going to stimulate your nervous system. Um, and yeah, like it's the vibe. That's the vibe, right? Like you catch one that's got the good vibe, it can feed your soul, even when you're not paying attention.
Dude, the new one I'm on, bro. Like it's kind of like a comedy pod. Well, it's definitely a comedy podcast because it's centered around like SNL days. But Dana Carvey or David Spade and Dana Carvey's Fly on the Wall. Have you guys listened to that ever?
I still
I
need
haven't
to.
gone down it yet.
Dude,
I've
Yeah.
heard you talk
need
about it a bunch, but I've never
check
listened.
it out, bro. It's so fucking hilarious, but it's also kind of cool because you get a little bit of like behind the scenes knowledge of like what it's like for like doing like SNL and like kind of how crazy it was back in the day and like how it's slightly changed and you
Yeah.
know it's slightly the same and
Well, people like that have lived a life, so like I imagine they have plenty of stories, and
Yeah.
seeing as both of them have like that comedy background that like they clearly know how to deliver it too, right? Which is
well, dude,
always
and
like a
their
good
banter
thing.
back and forth between the shows is hilarious, but then like they actually like have really cool guests on like from like you know they're obviously have either been a cast member of or hosted SNL is kind of like the whole premise of like their guest pool, I get or whatever.
So they're some part of the SNL alumni.
Yeah, it's in some way. But like you get like people like Tom Hanks and like John Lovitz, I think they've talked to, and like Chevy Chase was a fucking hilarious episode. Like they have like
That'd be
some
good.
gems. Paul
Yeah.
Rudd was on there, and that one was hilarious, I believe. Dude, there's good ones. They have like a 2-part like Chris Farley tribute thing, like around like the time he passed, where like they had like all kinds of different people just come on and like tell stories about Farley, and like it was pretty dope.
I can see that being good.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that's gonna feed you insides, you know. If you're sitting back and chuckling to that, yo, like
Well, dude, I was like coming of age on like their era of SNL, right? Like for someone
Right.
born in 1980, like those guys were on there when I was like 13, 14, and like staying up till like it was 11:30 on my time to catch it, right? So like I had to stay up pretty
Yeah.
fucking late and to like manage to like be out of sight and still have the TV on so I didn't get just destroyed for being up that late was pretty tough when you're like 12, 13 years old. And I just remember just dying, dude. Like I used to love the Sprockets, which had Dana Carvey in it. Like that was like one of my favorite skits. But like all those
Michael
guys
Myers
at that
was
time,
a fucking monster in those
dude, he
days,
was
bro.
so good, man. So good. But like that was so I was like just living and breathing SNL at that time.
I was
And so I have a
fortunate.
soft spot for like all those guys.
Yeah, I was fortunate to have Comedy Central syndicating all those classic SNLs at
Okay.
that same age range when I was like in my 13 to like 16 range. So like they were playing a lot of like old SNL and a lot of old Mad TV episodes and stuff on TV at the time. So like we got to watch all of that and truly appreciate those syndicated episodes. I mean, like, I hold that walking episode with the cowbell near and dear to my heart. Like, I might not be a fan of Will Ferrell movies, but Will Ferrell on SNL, let's go.
Dude,
Like,
so good.
Will Ferrell on SNL for me is peak Will Ferrell. Like, the cheerleading bits with Sherry O'Terry are
Yeah.
gold. Gold. All of them. There
So
isn't a
funny.
bad one.
So funny.
You know,
Adam,
like,
was like SNL big in Australia? Did you guys watch like that? Did you guys
it
get
was
that?
certainly wasn't part of my growing up, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't for some people. No.
Oh, so like it was
Well, then,
available to some. Was
here's
it
a
like
good
available
question.
at all or no?
Possibly on cable, I guess. It wasn't
Okay.
on. Yeah, I don't recall. You know, like, hey, it's Saturday night or Saturday night, we were watching it, or no, none of that. We had our
Okay.
own comedy.
I was gonna
Same
ask,
again, tangent. Yeah.
like, what were like those types of shows that were like big for you, like in your like coming of age era, like the ones that you locked onto?
Yeah. If I think about, when I was growing up and what was available to me, because there was a big part of my life where I was only watching two television stations. So, there was the ABC, which is basically the BBC, Australia's version of the BBC, and then another regional commercial station, which eventually became, one of our, I don't know, there's a lot of them now, but it was basically one of the big 3 or 4 television stations. So that would show, national Australian news and yada yada, and shows from overseas, a lot of American sitcoms. And so all of that kind of stuff was, think about the shows in the 70s, 80s and that stuff. Welcome Back, Kotter, and all of that whole generation, Sesame Street, that whole thing, watched all that. As far as comedy was concerned, we followed the English path. So, Goodies and, Rowan Atkinson or Billy, what's his name? Scottish dude. Anyway, like all that whole set,
So
English
you watched like
style
Mr.
of comedy.
Bean though?
That was when I was a teenager, and like as I said, so I'd grown up on watching one channel station, which was the ABC, and they would play like my earliest memories, Goodies. The Goodies, there would be an episode of Goodies, and then there would be, like that show that Spike Milligan did, which would be a 10-minute, like fucking, Monty Python style oddball,
Like
like
show, sort of.
very intelligent, but left field, comedy and sketch show and all that kind of stuff. And then they would have the Australian shows, which were like a variety show. We had a, like a doppelganger. What was that show called? Like the Gong Show kind of thing, if you know what that is.
Yeah,
And, lots of those kind of shows where they have live studio audience and bands that come in, touring artists to come and play, and then there'll be a stand-up comedian, and then there'll be some fucking funny skit and lots of that, but very English, I guess English comedy, resonated. So Australian comedy kind of took that. And so now it's very Australianized. And, when you see these Australian artists who do well in the Comedy Edinburgh Comedy Festival, and then they go to the States. And so, I don't know, it's a really big mishmash of things. But I was thinking earlier about comedians, and as a group when we hang out, we always talk about our favorite comedians and all that sort of thing. And then I think about those that influence me, motivationally. The way comedians look at things and break a situation down, and just that, that's what makes a smart comedian, right? The way they can view a situation and talk about what's happening or the ridiculousness or whatever their topic is. But there are sometimes comedians say things that are so on the money and true, but it's about life and how, you interpret it into being like, oh my God, like I do have a choice here, or like those kind of things. I think more emphasis needs to be in those brilliant brains of comedy, because, they're saying things that are more beneficial to us as humans than, those that are supposed to be.
100%. I agree with that 100%, because they're just talking from, real life.
Well, friends, that's the end of part 1 of this podcast episode with our friend Breezetones. Stick around. Next week, we're going to have part 2, and it keeps going from here. If you thought this was a roller coaster of subject matter, Just wait. We got more for you. So stay tuned, my friends, because next week, part 2 arrives. And with that, you know what I'm going to tell you. Don't let the bastards get you down. Be cool. Don't be a dick. And whatever it is that you do, be sure to have some fun. This is the Shedtime Podcast, and we're going to roll on up and roll on out.
Dynavap, Dynavap, Dynavap. Looking to cut the cord on your dry herb vape? Dynavap. Trying to get the best taste from your herb? Dynavap. Ready to take your sesh to the next level? Then meet Dynavap, the best way to vape your flower or concentrate. Concentrates? That's right, your flower or hash can be vaped using Dynavap. Check out Dynavap.com to learn more. That's Dynavap.com. Lose the ash? Dynavap.
What's going on, Shedheads? It's your boy Frames Janklin. Are you looking to step up your match game or have a raw copper, brass, or stainless mod or RDA that you're absolutely tired of polishing? Then you need to go and hit up my man Ashton of Palmer's Powders. He does some absolutely amazing powder coating work. He offers many different colors and finishes at an absolutely killer price. This man is taking powder coating to a whole new level, and he can make your setup an absolute masterpiece. You can go follow him over on Instagram at Palmer's Powders, and you can go check out pricing on his website, palmerspowders.com. That's palmerspowders.com. And as always, let's just vape on, Shedheads.
I want you to think of your favorite rebuildable right now. Yeah, okay, so you have a layer cake in your hand, and now you're about... Oh, sorry, yeah, that's not everyone's favorite. That's just mine. So think of your favorite rebuildable atomizer. Think about how good of a vape it produces for you. Now, take that and amplify it. And the way that you amplify that is you put in some Breezetones coils. Breezetones coils are handcrafted in Adelaide, Australia. They're made from some of the finest quality wire that you can get. I believe it's wire Buddha. You take those coils, you take them out of that phenomenal packaging that clearly shows how much care that Adam puts on the quality of his coils and the insurance that you get them in good shape. You put them in that favorite RDA, and guess what? You have coils that now sing better than Celine Dion. Go check out Breezetones coils. You can find them on localvape.com and also steelvalleyvapors.com. Solid.